Sophia Reed had learned to hide her memory the way other people hid scars. It was there, always, cataloging everything she saw and heard and experienced with perfect clarity. But she'd learned that people found it unsettling when you remembered things they'd forgotten. When you could recite conversations verbatim from 3 years ago. When you never forgot a face, a name, a detail. So Sophia pretended to be normal. Pretended to occasionally forget things. Pretended her memory was like everyone else's. Imperfect, selective, human. She was pretending to be normal when Julian Thorne walked into Marcella's, the upscale Italian restaurant where Sophia had been waitressing for 8 months. She recognized him immediately. Tech billionaire, founder of Thorne AI, currently developing neural interface technology that was supposedly going to revolutionize how humans interacted with computers. She'd seen him on magazine covers, in interviews, in the tech news feeds she read obsessively. What she didn't recognize was the calculating look in his eyes as he studied the restaurant. Like he was analyzing data, running algorithms, looking for something specific. "Good evening," Sophia greeted him with her standard server smile. "Table for one?" "Actually, I have a reservation." "Julian Thorne, 7:30. "Of course, Mr. Thorne. Right this way." Sophia led him to a prime table by the window. "Your server will be with you shortly." "You're not my server?" "I can be if you'd prefer. I was just going to hand you off to Michael. He usually handles this section. I'd prefer you, if that's acceptable." Sophia nodded, adjusting her mental schedule. "Of course. Can I start you with something to drink?" "Water, still not sparkling. Room temperature, and I'll need a few minutes with the menu." Sophia brought the water exactly as specified and watched as Julian studied the menu with intense focus. Not the casual browsing of someone deciding what sounded good. The analytical reading of someone looking for something specific. "Ready to order?" she asked after the appropriate interval. "Yes, but I have some specific requests. I hope that's acceptable." "Absolutely." Chef Marco is very accommodating. What followed was the most complicated order Sophia had heard in 8 months of serving demanding customers. Julian ordered 7 different dishes, not for himself, he clarified, but to try variety. Each dish came with multiple modifications. The osso buco, but I need the gremolata on the side, not incorporated. The risotto should be al dente, not creamy. No saffron in the risotto. Substitute with white wine reduction instead. The vegetables should be blanched for exactly 90 seconds, no oil, seasoned with sea salt only. Serve everything at room temperature, not hot. Sophia took notes, her pen moving quickly across her pad. "For the pasta course, I want the cacio e pepe, but made with bucatini instead of spaghetti. The cheese ratio should be 2 parts pecorino to 1 part parmigiano. Black pepper freshly ground, coarse not fine. The pasta needs to be precisely 8 minutes in the water, al dente but with bite. Toss it with reserved pasta water, not butter. Serve it immediately, timing is critical," he continued for 10 minutes, detailing modifications for 5 more dishes. Specific temperatures, precise cooking times, ingredient substitutions, plating requirements. It was absurd, impossible to remember without extensive notes. Except Sophia didn't need notes. She was writing to maintain the illusion of normalcy, but every word Julian spoke was already catalogued in her memory, perfect and permanent. She could recite the entire order verbatim, could visualize each specification, could organize it all for the kitchen without referring to her notepad once. "Will that be a problem?" Julian asked, watching her with those calculating eyes. "Not at all. I'll get this to the kitchen right away." Sophia put in the order, relaying every detail to Chef Marco with perfect accuracy. Marco raised his eyebrows at the complexity, but nodded. "This guy testing us or something?" "Probably just particular. He's a billionaire. They tend to be specific about things." The meal service was a ballet of precision. Sophia coordinated 7 dishes, each with its particular requirements, making sure everything came out at the right temperature, properly timed, exactly as specified. She verified each plate before serving, caught 2 mistakes the kitchen made, corrected them without the customer knowing. When she set down the final dish, the osso buco with its gremolata carefully separated, Julian looked at her directly for the first time. "Impressive. You didn't check your notes once. I have a good memory for orders. Did you memorize what I asked for? Can you repeat it?" Sophia knew this was a test, knew she should pretend to hesitate, to check her notepad, to be impressively good but not impossibly perfect. But something in Julian's expression stopped her. He wasn't asking to be impressed. He was asking because he already knew the answer. The osso buco with gremolata on the side. Risotto al dente without saffron, substituting white wine reduction. Vegetables blanched exactly 90 seconds with no oil and sea salt only. Everything served at room temperature. Cacio e pepe with bucatini instead of spaghetti. 2 parts pecorino to 1 part parmigiano. Coarse black pepper freshly ground. Pasta cooked exactly 8 minutes. Tossed with reserved pasta water, not butter. Served immediately due to timing requirements. Should I continue with the other 5 dishes? Julian's expression shifted. Not surprise exactly, confirmation. Like he'd suspected something and she'd just proven it. That's not normal memory. That's eidetic memory. Potentially hyperthymesia. How long have you had it? I don't know what you're talking about. I just pay attention to orders. You recited my specifications verbatim, word for word, including details that weren't critical to the preparation. That's not paying attention. That's having a neurological condition that allows for perfect recall. How long have you had it? Sophia felt exposed, vulnerable. This was why she hid her memory. Why she pretended to be normal. Because people like Julian, people who saw her as data, as potential, as something to be analyzed, always found her eventually, since I was a child. But I don't talk about it, and I'd appreciate if you didn't either. Why not? It's an incredible ability. Do you know how rare genuine eidetic memory is in adults? Most children who show photographic memory lose it by adolescence. Adults who retain it are statistically anomalous. You're basically a walking database. I'm a person, not a database. And I'm not interested in being studied or analyzed or whatever it is you're thinking. I just want to do my job. What if I could offer you a better job? One that actually utilized your abilities instead of wasting them on memorizing dinner orders? Not interested. You haven't heard the offer. I don't need to. I know what happens when people find out about my memory. They want to use it, test it, turn me into a party trick or a research subject. I've been down that road. No, thank you. Julian pulled out a business card. I'm developing neural interface technology. Systems that can enhance human memory and cognition. You could be instrumental in that development. I'll pay you $500,000 for 6 months of consultation. Help me understand how perfect memory works. How to replicate it artificially. No. Sophia set down the card without looking at it. I'm not for sale, Mr. Thorne. And my memory isn't something I'm interested in replicating. It's not the gift you think it is. $500,000 for 6 months of work is not enough to make me relive being treated like a circus freak. I remember everything, Mr. Thorne. Every time someone tested me. Every time someone used my memory for their own purposes. Every disappointment. Every exploitation. I remember all of it perfectly, forever. That's the curse of perfect memory. You don't just remember the good things. You remember everything. Permanently. With perfect clarity. So no. I'm not interested in helping you build technology that might inflict that on other people. Julian studied her, and Sophia saw something shift in his expression. Something that looked almost like understanding. I hadn't thought about it that way. That perfect memory might be a burden. Because you're thinking about it as data. As capability, not as human experience. I live with every moment I've ever experienced existing simultaneously in my mind with perfect clarity. I can't forget anything. Can't let things fade. Can't have merciful distance from painful memories. That's not enhancement. That's torture. Then why not use it differently? Turn it into an advantage instead of a burden? I am, by choosing not to exploit it. By living as normally as possible. By serving tables and pretending to occasionally forget things so people don't look at me like I'm either a freak or a resource to be mined. You're wasting incredible potential. I'm protecting my humanity. There's a difference. Sophia picked up his empty plates. Will there be anything else? Just the check. And Sophia, may I call you Sophia? How do you know my name? Your name tag. And I pay attention. Not with perfect memory, but I try. Julian smiled slightly. I apologize for the test. For treating you like a data point instead of a person. That was reductive. Yes, it was. But you're not the first and you won't be the last. People with memories like mine learn to hide. Otherwise we never get to just be people. Would you consider meeting me? Not for business. Just to talk. I'm genuinely curious about how you experience the world. Not as research, as conversation. Why? Because you're right. I do think about everything as data and capability. And meeting someone who experiences life so differently might help me understand what I'm missing. The human element I keep failing to factor into my technology. Sophia wanted to say no. Should say no. Should maintain distance from Julian Thorne and his calculating eyes and his offers that sounded like opportunities but would inevitably become exploitation. But something in his admission that he kept failing to factor in the human element made her pause. Because that was exactly what Sophia saw in tech development. People building memory enhancement without understanding what memory actually was. What it meant to be unable to forget. One conversation. Coffee. Public place. Not business. If you mention money or job offers again, I leave. Deal. Tomorrow? There's a cafe 2 blocks from here. 10 a.m.? Fine. But Julian, if this is another test, if you're still treating me like something to study, I'm done. I'll walk out and you'll never hear from me again. Understood. No tests, just conversation. Between 2 people trying to understand each other. After Julian left, Sophia's coworker Jenny cornered her immediately. What was that about? He was here for 2 hours, ordered half the menu, and I saw you 2 talking. What happened? He's a tech guy. Thinks he can buy anything. Learned he can't. Did he seriously try to hire you? For what? Something I'm not interested in. Don't worry about it. But Sophia was worrying about it. Because Julian Thorne had seen her. Really seen her. Understood immediately what she was. And instead of running away or trying to exploit it, he'd asked for conversation. For understanding. That was new. That was different. That was potentially dangerous because it was exactly what Sophia had always wanted. Someone who understood her memory without treating her like a freak or a resource. Walking home that night, Sophia replayed the entire interaction in her mind. She could do that, replay memories like videos, perfect and complete. Could see Julian's expression when she'd recited his order. Could hear the exact tone of his voice when he'd admitted he kept failing to factor in humanity. She should stay away. Should protect herself. Should maintain distance from anyone interested in her memory, but she'd agreed to coffee. To conversation. To the possibility that maybe, just maybe, someone could understand her condition without trying to exploit it. That was either the smartest decision she'd made in years, or the stupidest. Time would tell which. Sophia arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early, which gave her time to observe Julian before he saw her. He was already there, sitting at a corner table with a laptop open, typing rapidly. But every 30 seconds or so, he'd glance at the door, checking, waiting, wondering if she'd actually show up. When he saw her, his expression shifted, genuine relief mixed with something that looked like nervousness. Sophia filed that away with everything else she remembered about him. Julian Thorne, billionaire tech developer, was nervous about having coffee with a waitress. You came, he said, standing as she approached. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. But I'm curious. You said you keep failing to factor in humanity. That's either self-aware or a really good manipulation tactic. I'm here to figure out which. Fair. Can I get you coffee? They have an excellent Colombian roast. I know. I've been coming here for 3 years. Medium roast, black, no sugar. Julian smiled slightly. Of course you remember your own coffee order. Do you remember everyone else's too? Yes, the barista's name is Claire. She takes her coffee with oat milk and 1 pump of vanilla. The regular at the window table is David. He orders decaf Americano with exactly 3 ice cubes. The couple in the corner are Sarah and Tom. She drinks chai lattes. He drinks whatever she's not drinking so they can share. Should I continue? That's remarkable. And probably exhausting. Carrying around that much information about everyone you encounter. It is. Which is why I asked you to stop treating me like a phenomenon. I'm just a person who happens to remember things. That doesn't make me special. Just different. Different is special. But I understand your point. You want to be seen as Sophia, not as Sophia who has perfect memory. Exactly. So tell me about you. Julian Thorne, not the billionaire tech developer. The person. What do you care about when you're not building neural interfaces? Julian was quiet for a moment, like the question had caught him off guard. Honestly, I don't know. I've spent the past 15 years building Thorne AI. It's consumed everything. I don't have hobbies. Don't have close friends. Don't have interests outside technology. I wake up thinking about code. I fall asleep thinking about problems. Everything is work. That sounds lonely. It is. But it's also purposeful. I'm building something that matters. Technology that could help people with memory disorders, with cognitive decline, with learning disabilities. That's worth being lonely. Is it? Worth sacrificing your entire life for? You tell me. You're hiding an incredible ability because you're afraid people will exploit it. Isn't that also a sacrifice? Choosing isolation over vulnerability? Sophia bristled. That's not the same thing, isn't it? We're both protecting ourselves. You hide your memory to avoid exploitation. I hide behind work to avoid, I don't know. Connection, maybe. Humanity. The things I keep failing to factor into my technology. At least you admit it. Most tech developers think they're saving the world while ignoring how their inventions affect actual people. I'm trying not to be that person. That's why I'm developing neural interfaces instead of just artificial intelligence. I want to enhance human capability, not replace it. Help people remember better without forcing them to remember everything. Give them tools for selective enhancement instead of perfect recall. Why? What made you interested in memory specifically? Julian looked away, his fingers tapping against his coffee cup. A nervous gesture Sophia filed away with everything else. My mother had early onset Alzheimer's. She was 50 when she started forgetting things. 53 when she forgot my name. 55 when she died, having forgotten everything that made her who she was. I watched her disappear piece by piece, memory by memory. It was the worst thing I've ever experienced, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I'm sorry. That's terrible. It was, but it's also why I do this. Why I'm building technology to help people retain memories. To fight against the forgetting that destroys people. That's the human element I'm trying to serve. People like my mother who need help remembering. Sophia felt her resistance softening. This wasn't exploitation. This was grief transmuted into purpose. This was someone trying to prevent other people from experiencing what he'd experienced. I understand that. But Julian, there's a difference between helping people who are losing memories and giving perfect memory to people who don't need it. One is medical intervention. The other is enhancement that might do more harm than good. You're right. That's the line I'm trying to navigate. How to help people who need memory support without creating the burden you experience. How to give people tools without giving them torture. Have you talked to people who actually have conditions like mine? People with hyperthymesia? People who can't forget? I've tried. But most people with eidetic memory don't want to talk about it. They hide it like you do. Or they've been exploited so many times they don't trust researchers. You're the first person I've met who has it and is willing to talk about the experience honestly. Because you admitted you're failing at something. You didn't pretend to have all the answers. That's unusual for tech billionaires. Most tech billionaires are idiots who think having money means having wisdom. I'm just an idiot who's aware he's an idiot. Slightly better, but not by much. Sophia smiled despite herself. Self-awareness is underrated. Okay, Julian, you want to understand perfect memory? I'll tell you what it's actually like. Not the party trick version. The real, everyday experience of being unable to forget anything. I'm listening. Imagine never being able to move on from anything. Every embarrassing moment you've ever had exists in perfect clarity forever. Every failure, every hurt, every loss. You can't forget the face of someone who betrayed you. Can't let painful memories fade. Can't have merciful distance from trauma. It's all there, all the time. Perfect and permanent. That sounds like torture. It is. But it's also lonely, because you remember things other people forget. You remember exactly what they said 3 years ago. Remember promises they made. Remember details of their lives they've forgotten. And you can't mention it because then you're the weird one. The one who remembers too much. So you pretend to forget. Pretend to be normal. Spend your life performing imperfect memory so people won't see how different you are. Why not find other people like you? People who understand. Because we're rare. And because most of us don't want to be defined by our memory. We want to be seen as people first. That means hiding from each other as much as from everyone else. Julian was quiet for a long time, processing. I hadn't considered the social cost. I've been thinking about memory enhancement as purely beneficial. More capability, more recall, more efficiency. But you're describing isolation. Disconnection from people who don't share your experience. That's the human element you keep missing. Technology doesn't exist in isolation. It affects relationships, social dynamics, how people connect with each other. If you give everyone perfect memory, you're not enhancing them. You're potentially isolating them, making it impossible to have the shared experience of forgetting together. So what's the solution? Don't develop memory enhancement at all? No, develop it thoughtfully. For people who need it medically, with controls that let people choose what to remember and what to let fade, with understanding that perfect recall isn't always optimal, that forgetting is sometimes a feature, not a bug. That's brilliant. Selective enhancement with opt-out features. Memory support that mimics natural human memory, good at important things, allowed to fade on trivial things, instead of forcing perfect recall on everything. Exactly. Help people remember their children's faces, their important moments, things that matter, but let them forget the trivial embarrassments, the daily frustrations, the things that don't need to be permanent. Julian pulled out his laptop. Can I show you something? I promise this isn't me treating you like a research subject. I just want your feedback on what I'm building, from someone who actually understands memory as lived experience. Okay, but if this turns into another job offer, I'm leaving. No job offers. Just genuine curiosity about whether what I'm building would help or hurt people like you. He showed Sophia prototypes of neural interface technology, devices that could enhance memory formation, help people with declining recall, assist with learning and retention. But as Sophia reviewed the specs, she saw the problems immediately. This enhancement is constant. It's forcing perfect encoding of everything. That's not help. That's creating hyperthymesia artificially. You're going to give people my condition without their consent. I didn't see it that way. I thought more memory was inherently better. It's not. Memory needs to be selective. Prioritize important things. Let trivial things fade. That's what healthy memory does naturally. Your system needs controls. Let users decide what's worth remembering and what's okay to forget. How would that work? Context flags, emotional tagging. Users identify what's important. Moments with loved ones, critical information, meaningful experiences. The system enhances encoding for those. Everything else gets normal memory treatment. Allowed to fade naturally. You're not forcing perfect recall. You're supporting selective enhancement. Julian typed rapidly, modifying his designs based on Sophia's feedback. This is exactly what I needed. Someone who understands memory as human experience instead of data storage. Sophia, I know you said no job offers, but I'm going to break that rule. Not to buy your memory, to buy your insight. I need you on my development team, not as a test subject. As a consultant who can make sure we're building something that actually helps people instead of hurting them. I'm a waitress. I don't have technical expertise. You have experiential expertise. You understand memory in ways my engineers never will because they don't live with perfect recall. You can identify problems I can't see. Prevent harm I don't know I'm creating. That's worth more than technical knowledge. How much are you offering this time? Same amount. $500,000 for 6 months. But not as a test subject. As a consultant, part-time. You can keep waitressing if you want. You just spend 15 hours a week reviewing my team's work, identifying problems, making sure we're developing technology that helps without harming. Sophia wanted to say no, should maintain distance from Julian and his technology and his money. But looking at the prototypes, seeing the problems clearly, knowing she could prevent harm, she couldn't walk away. I have conditions. Name them. First, I'm not a test subject ever. You don't get to study my memory. Don't get to run tests. Don't get to treat me like data. I'm purely consultative. Agreed. Second, if I say something you're building is harmful, you listen. My feedback isn't optional. It's binding. If I identify a problem, you fix it. Agreed. What else? Third, my memory stays private. You don't tell your team why I'm qualified. Don't mention my condition. I'm just a consultant with expertise in human experience. Nothing more. Done. Anything else? If I feel exploited, if this crosses into treating me like a phenomenon instead of a person, I walk away. Immediately. No notice. No explanation. Just gone. And you don't try to find me or convince me to come back. Fair? I'll put all of that in the contract. Sophia, I'm not trying to exploit you. I'm trying to learn from you. There's a difference. I hope so. Because if you're lying, I'll remember every word of this conversation forever. I'll remember exactly how you manipulated me. And I'll use that memory to make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. I'm not lying. And I'll prove it. Let me show you something. Julian pulled up files on his laptop. Medical records. Research notes. Personal journals. These are my mother's Alzheimer's records. I've never shown them to anyone. But I want you to see why this matters to me. Why I'm building this technology. It's not about money or success or innovation. It's about preventing other people from losing their mothers the way I lost mine. From watching someone they love disappear memory by memory. Sophia read through the files, seeing the progression of disease. Seeing Julian's mother decline. Seeing his desperate attempts to slow the forgetting. Seeing his grief transmuted into purpose. I believe you. You're not exploiting. You're grieving. This technology is your way of processing loss? Yes. And maybe preventing other people from experiencing what I experienced. That's all I want. To help people keep the memories that matter, then let's make sure you do it right. Without creating new problems. Without giving people burdens they don't need. Let's build something that actually helps. Together? Together. But Julian, if this partnership is going to work, you need to understand something. My memory isn't just a professional asset. It's my life. Every moment of this conversation is permanent for me. Every word you say, every expression on your face. I'll carry it forever. So be careful, be honest. Because I'll remember everything. I understand. And Sophia? Thank you. For trusting me. For sharing your experience. For giving me a chance to do this right. I won't waste it. You better not. Because I really will remember if you do. Sophia's first day at Thorn AI was overwhelming in ways she hadn't anticipated. The office was sleek, modern, full of brilliant people working on technology she barely understood. But what overwhelmed her wasn't the complexity. It was the assumptions everyone made. Sophia's joining us as a human experience consultant. Julian introduced her to the memory enhancement team. She'll be reviewing our work to ensure we're building something that actually helps people. Her feedback is mandatory, not optional. If she identifies a problem, we fix it. Clear. The team nodded, but Sophia saw the skepticism. These were engineers and neuroscientists with advanced degrees. She was a waitress with no credentials. Why should they listen to her? Can I ask what qualifies you to consult on neural interface technology? Dr. Patricia Chen, the lead neuroscientist, asked with barely concealed condescension. Your background is in food service. My background is in being human, Sophia replied evenly, which is the perspective your team lacks. You're building memory enhancement for people. I can tell you how it feels to live with enhanced memory. That's my qualification, with all respect. Understanding how technology feels isn't the same as understanding how it works. No, but understanding how it works doesn't help if what you're building makes people miserable. I'm here to prevent that. Julian hired me because he recognizes that all the technical expertise in the world doesn't matter if you're creating something harmful. Patricia looked to Julian, who nodded. Sophia's feedback is final. I've given her veto power over any feature she believes is harmful. Treat her recommendations as seriously as you'd treat mine. After the introduction, Julian pulled Sophia into his office. That was tense. Patricia's brilliant, but she doesn't handle authority challenges well. She'll warm up once she sees your value, or she'll keep resenting me for having power without credentials. Julian, your team thinks I'm unqualified. How am I supposed to consult when no one respects my input? By being right. By identifying problems they miss. By proving your lived experience is more valuable than their theoretical knowledge. Give it time. Time came faster than expected. That afternoon, Sophia reviewed the team's latest prototype, a memory enhancement system designed to help people retain more information with less effort. The specs looked impressive. Increased encoding efficiency, better recall accuracy, reduced cognitive load. Sophia saw the problem immediately. This system has no off switch, she said during the design review. Once someone activates memory enhancement, they can't turn it off. They're recording everything permanently. That's not enhancement. That's forced hyperthymesia. The system is designed to be always on for consistency. Dr. Marcus Webb, the lead engineer, explained. Users get optimal benefit when enhancement is constant. Intermittent use reduces effectiveness. Intermittent use also gives people control over what they remember. What if someone experiences trauma, has a terrible day, witnesses something they don't want to remember forever? Your system forces them to encode that with perfect clarity, permanently. That's not help. That's torture. We're assuming users want to remember more. That's the purpose of memory enhancement. That assumption is wrong. I live with the condition you're creating artificially. I'm telling you it's not always desirable. Sometimes forgetting is protective, healthy, necessary. You need controls that let users choose when to enhance and when to let memory work naturally. Patricia spoke up. Sophia, with respect, you're not a neuroscientist. You don't understand the technical limitations. Building selective enhancement is exponentially more complex than constant enhancement. We'd need real-time context analysis, emotional state monitoring, user input systems, then build that. Because without it, you're creating a product that will harm people, make them unable to forget trauma, unable to let painful memories fade, unable to have the merciful distance that normal memory provides. You'll be giving them my condition. And I'm telling you, as someone who lives with it, that's not a gift. It's a curse. That's a subjective experience. It's the experience your users will have. And when they suffer from it, when they can't forget terrible things, when they develop anxiety and depression from being unable to escape painful memories, you'll be responsible. Is that really what you want to build? The room went quiet. Sophia had hit the moral question no one wanted to address. Were they creating something helpful or something harmful? Sophia's right, Julian said finally. We need user controls. Marcus, work with her to design a system that allows selective enhancement. Make it technically feasible. I don't care how complex it is. We're not releasing technology that forces people into permanent perfect recall. After the meeting, Patricia cornered Sophia. You realize you just added months to our development timeline? The system we had was nearly ready for trials. Now we're starting over with selective enhancement architecture. Good. Better to take months getting it right than rush something harmful to market. You don't understand the pressure Julian's under. Investors expecting results. Competitors developing similar technology. We need to move fast or we'll lose our advantage. Then lose the advantage. Julian's mother had Alzheimer's. He watched her forget everything. This technology is personal for him. He's not going to release something that harms people just to beat competitors. And neither should you. Patricia studied Sophia for a long moment. How did you know about Julian's mother? He told me. When he was explaining why he's building this technology, it's not about money or market advantage. It's about preventing other people from experiencing what he experienced. That's the human element you keep missing. And you understand that human element because... Sophia almost told her, almost explained about her perfect memory. About living with the condition they were trying to create artificially. About understanding trauma and burden in ways Patricia couldn't. But she'd promised Julian her memory would stay private. So instead she said, I understand it because I've watched people suffer. I've seen what happens when technology ignores human needs. And I'm not going to be part of creating more suffering, even if it slows down your timeline. Over the next 3 months, Sophia became indispensable. She identified problems the team missed, caught harmful features before they made it to prototypes, advocated for user controls and ethical safeguards. Slowly, reluctantly, the team started listening. The emotional tagging system Sophia suggested is working. Marcus admitted during a progress review. Users can flag moments as important or routine. Important moments get enhanced encoding. Routine moments get standard memory processing. It's giving people the selective enhancement Sophia said they needed. I told you lived experience matters, Sophia said. You were right. I apologize for doubting your expertise. You've made this technology better, safer, more humane. But working closely with Julian was creating complications Sophia hadn't anticipated. They spent hours together reviewing designs, discussing ethics, debating features. And somewhere in those hours, Sophia's feelings shifted from professional respect to something more complicated. Julian noticed her. Really noticed her, not as phenomenon or resource, but as Sophia. He remembered details about her life, not because he had perfect recall, but because he cared enough to pay attention. He asked about her day, noticed when she was tired, brought her coffee the way she liked it. You're doing it again, Sophia said one evening when they were working late. Doing what? Treating me like a person instead of a consultant. Remembering things about me that aren't professionally relevant. Being thoughtful in ways that make this complicated. Is that a problem? It is when I'm trying to maintain professional boundaries. When I'm trying not to develop feelings for someone who's technically my boss. Julian set down his laptop. For the record, you're not my employee. You're an independent consultant with veto power over my projects. That makes us collaborators, not boss and employee. So if you're developing feelings, there's no power dynamic issue. There's still the complication of working together, of mixing professional and personal, of the fact that I remember everything and that means I can't just forget if this goes badly. Would it be worth trying anyway? Despite the complications, Sophia thought about her memory. About how every moment with Julian was permanent. About how if this relationship failed, she'd remember it forever with perfect clarity. Every good moment would become painful nostalgia. Every bad moment would remain sharp and cutting. But she'd also remember if she walked away. Would remember always wondering what could have been. Would remember choosing fear over possibility. I don't know. I need to think about it. Need to figure out if I can handle a relationship when I can't forget anything that goes wrong. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Sophia, you've changed how I think about everything. About technology. About humanity. About what matters. That doesn't change whether we're together or not. You matter to me, professionally and personally. That night, Sophia lay in bed replaying conversations with Julian. She could do that, recall any interaction perfectly, could see his expressions, hear his tone, analyze every detail. What she saw was genuine care, not manipulation, not exploitation, just someone who saw her completely and valued what he saw. Someone who'd given her power instead of trying to take it. Someone who listened when she identified problems instead of dismissing her concerns. Someone who might be worth the risk of permanent memories, good and bad. Her phone buzzed. Text from Julian. I know you're replaying our conversation. I know you're analyzing everything I said. I know you remember perfectly. But Sophia, what I said is simple. You matter to me. Everything else is just details. Sophia smiled despite herself. He was learning how her memory worked. Learning to communicate clearly because he knew she'd remember forever. Learning to be careful with his words because they'd become permanent for her. I'm still thinking. Give me time, all the time you need. But while you're thinking, remember this too. I'm falling in love with you. Have been for weeks. Probably since you recited that impossible dinner order verbatim and then told me my offer was insulting. That's when I knew you were extraordinary. Sophia stared at the message. Could recall every interaction since then. Could see all the moments Julian had been falling for her while she'd been too busy protecting herself to notice. That's not fair. Telling me you love me when I'm trying to make a rational decision. Love isn't rational. And you deserve to know the truth. I love you. Whether you can handle a relationship with perfect memory or not. Whether we work together or you quit tomorrow. I love you. That's not changing. I remember everything. If this fails, I'll remember this moment forever. I'll remember you saying you love me. I'll remember every good thing that happens. And I'll remember every bad thing too. Can you handle being with someone who never forgets? Who can recall every fight, every mistake, every moment you wish I'd forgotten? Yes. Because I want you to remember the good things permanently too. I want every happy moment we create to exist forever in your mind. I want to build memories worth keeping. That's what love is. Building moments someone wants to remember. Sophia felt something break in her chest. The fear that had kept her isolated. The protection that had kept her alone. The belief that her memory made her too different to be loved. Okay, let's try. But Julian, you need to understand. My memory doesn't fade. If you hurt me, I'll remember it forever. If this fails, I can't just move on. I'll carry it permanently. Are you sure you want that responsibility? I'm sure. And Sophia, if I'm lucky enough to make you happy, you'll remember that forever too. Every moment, every feeling, every reason you fell in love with me. That's worth the risk. Dating someone with perfect memory, Julian quickly learned, required a level of honesty most people weren't capable of. Every casual promise mattered. Every small comment was permanent. Every moment became part of Sophia's eternal record. You said we'd have dinner Tuesday, Sophia mentioned on Thursday. You said it at 3:47 p.m. last Monday while we were reviewing the emotional tagging protocols. You said, and I quote, let's do dinner Tuesday. I want to take you somewhere that isn't the office. Then Tuesday came and you worked late without mentioning it. I forgot. I'm sorry. I got caught up in. I know you forgot. That's my point. You forget things that are important to me because your memory is normal. Mine isn't. When you make a promise, it exists in my mind with perfect clarity forever. When you break it, even accidentally, I remember both the promise and the breaking. That accumulates. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. That was thoughtless. It wasn't thoughtless. It was normal. You're a normal person who forgets things. I'm not. And I'm trying to figure out if normal people and people like me can actually have relationships, or if the memory gap is too fundamental. Julian set down his laptop. They were in his apartment. What was supposed to be a romantic evening that had turned into another work session. Tell me how to do better. I can't change having normal memory, but I can change how I handle it. How I account for the fact that you remember everything. Don't make casual promises. Don't say things you might forget. If you commit to something, write it down. Set reminders. Treat every word like it's permanent because for me it is. That's a lot of pressure, to know that everything I say is being recorded permanently. Never being able to have my words fade or be forgotten. Welcome to my life. Except I don't get to choose it, you do. You can walk away from this relationship if it's too much pressure. I can't walk away from my memory. I don't want to walk away. I want to learn. To be better. Sophia, teach me how to love someone who never forgets. Because I've never done this before and I'm clearly failing at it. Over the next 2 months, they developed systems. Julian kept meticulous notes about promises. Set calendar reminders for commitments. Started being more careful with his words, knowing they'd be permanent in Sophia's mind. And slowly, painfully, he learned that dating someone with perfect memory meant being held accountable in ways he'd never experienced. This is exhausting, he admitted after another conversation about something he'd forgotten. I feel like I'm being constantly monitored. Like every mistake is being cataloged and will be brought up forever. Because it will be. That's the reality of my memory. I don't bring things up to punish you. I bring them up because they exist for me with the same clarity as if they just happened. Your forgotten promise from 2 weeks ago? For me, it's as fresh as if you broke it today. So how do we make this work? How do we have a relationship when every mistake I make is permanent? The same way you'd have a relationship with anyone. By trying, by learning, by caring enough to do better. The only difference is that with me, you don't get the mercy of forgetting. You have to actually change instead of just waiting for me to forget you did something wrong. That's terrifying. It's honest. Most relationships let people get away with things because their partners forget. I don't forget. So you either become better or we fail. There's no middle ground where you keep making the same mistakes and I just forget about them. What if I can't become better fast enough? What if I keep failing and you keep accumulating reasons to leave? Then we fail. But Julian, I'm not keeping score to prove you're inadequate. I'm keeping perfect records because I literally cannot do anything else. My memory doesn't distinguish between important grievances and trivial annoyances. It keeps everything. That's the burden. Not that I want to remember your mistakes. That I have no choice. Julian pulled her close, and Sophia let herself relax against him. I'm sorry. I keep thinking about your memory as something that affects me, but it's your burden, your daily reality. I'm just experiencing a tiny fraction of what you live with constantly. Thank you for understanding that. Most people don't. How do you live with it? With remembering every painful thing perfectly? I don't have a choice. It's like asking someone with chronic pain how they live with it. They just do, because the alternative is not living. But there must be coping mechanisms, ways you manage the burden. I focus on building good memories. Try to create moments worth remembering permanently. Try to fill my perfect memory with beautiful things instead of just painful ones. That's why I was so resistant to working with you initially. I knew that if we worked together, if we spent time together, those memories would be permanent. I had to decide if you were worth carrying in my mind forever. And am I? Worth carrying permanently? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. After I've accumulated enough memories to know if having you in my mind forever is a gift or a burden. But the relationship was complicated by more than just memory. It was complicated by work, by the fact that Sophia had veto power over Julian's projects and sometimes had to use it in ways that created tension. We can't release this feature, Sophia said during a design review 6 months into their relationship. The team had developed a memory export function, a way to download and share memories with others. Technically impressive, ethically horrifying. Why not? Patricia challenged. Users have been requesting this. The ability to share memories, to let others experience what they experienced. It's one of our most requested features, because memories aren't data. They're personal, subjective, emotional. If you let people export and share them, you're creating potential for massive harm. Imagine someone sharing your memories without consent, or editing them before sharing, or using your memories as evidence against you. This feature opens enormous ethical problems. We can put consent requirements in place, which people will bypass or exploit. No, this feature is too dangerous. I'm vetoing it. Sophia, you can't just veto popular features because of hypothetical concerns. I can, and I am. That's why Julian hired me, to prevent you from building harmful technology. Memory sharing is harmful. It treats deeply personal experiences as shareable content. That's not enhancement. That's violation. The team looked to Julian, who'd been quiet throughout the debate. Sophia's veto stands. We're not doing memory sharing. Find other features to work on. Julian, this is our most requested feature. Users want it. The market wants it. We're losing competitive advantage by not offering it. Then we lose the advantage. I hired Sophia specifically to prevent us from building features that seem beneficial, but are actually harmful. She's doing her job. The decision is final. After the meeting, Patricia confronted Julian privately. Sophia heard them through the office walls. One benefit of perfect memory was perfect recall of overheard conversations. She's limiting what we can build, slowing our progress, costing us market share. And you're backing her because you're sleeping with her. I'm backing her because she's right. Memory sharing is ethically problematic. If we build it and people get hurt, that's on us. Sophia's preventing that harm. Or she's using her position as your girlfriend to exert control she wouldn't have otherwise. Julian, you've given her veto power over your company, over technology you've spent years developing. Because you're emotionally involved, that's not good leadership. That's letting personal feelings compromise business decisions. Sophia walked in before Julian could respond. You're right. Julian is compromising business for ethics because of me. Because I make him think about human cost instead of just market advantage. If that's bad leadership, then maybe leadership needs to change. Maybe prioritizing ethics over profit is exactly what tech development needs. This isn't your company. You don't get to decide our priorities. Actually, I do. Julian gave me that power. Not because we're dating, because I have expertise his team lacks. I understand memory as lived experience. I identify problems you miss because you only think about memory as data. That's valuable. That's why he hired me. Our relationship is separate, is it? Or are you using your personal connection to Julian to push an agenda against technological progress? I'm using my expertise to prevent harm. If you see that as agenda instead of ethics, that's your problem. But Patricia, answer honestly. Would you want someone to have access to your memories? To be able to download them, share them, potentially edit them? Would you want your most private moments treated as shareable content? Patricia was quiet for a moment. No, I wouldn't. But most people don't think about the implications. They just want cool features. Exactly. That's why you need someone like me. Someone thinking about implications. Someone preventing you from building technology that seems cool but causes real harm. That's not limiting progress. That's steering it in ethical directions. After Patricia left, Julian pulled Sophia into his office. Thank you for standing up to her, for defending the decision, for not letting her diminish your expertise. She's not wrong, though. Our relationship does affect my judgment. I'm harder on your company's ethics because I care about you, because I don't want you to build something harmful and have to live with that knowledge. If we weren't together, maybe I'd be less strict. Would you? Or would you be exactly as strict because that's who you are? Sophia, your ethics aren't contingent on our relationship. You had these standards before you met me. You've always prioritized preventing harm over enabling features. That's not about us. That's about you. Maybe. But it's complicated when the person I'm consulting for is also the person I'm in love with. Those roles overlap in ways that create conflicts. Then we'll manage the conflicts by being honest about them, by acknowledging when our relationship affects our work, by making sure that my trust in you is based on your expertise, not just our feelings. Sophia, you're good at this job. You make our technology better. That's true whether we're together or not. You have a lot of faith in me. I have faith in your judgment, in your ethics, in your ability to see problems others miss. That faith is based on 6 months of watching you improve everything you touch, not on romance, on results. That night, lying in Julian's bed, Sophia replayed the confrontation with Patricia. They're developing my condition by choice and then becoming unable to function without it. What do you want to do? We can't control how people use the technology. No, but we can build in safeguards. Mandatory rest periods where enhancement is disabled. Warnings when usage becomes excessive. Education about healthy memory practices. Something that prevents people from accidentally giving themselves hyperthymesia because they don't understand what they're creating. That's going to be unpopular. People don't like being told they're using our product too much. I don't care about popularity. I care about preventing harm. Julian, I live with the condition these people are creating artificially. I know what they're signing up for, and they don't. They think perfect memory is purely beneficial. They don't understand it's also a burden. We need to warn them, protect them, even if they don't want protection. Julian studied her for a long moment. You're asking me to limit a successful product because some users might develop problems we can't prove will happen. I'm asking you to choose ethics over profit again, to protect users even when they don't want protection, to build safeguards that prevent harm before it happens, instead of addressing it after people are already suffering. That's what ethical technology does, prevents problems instead of just solving them. Okay, you're right. Build the safeguards. I'll deal with the user complaints and revenue loss. This is more important. But implementing the safeguards created backlash Sophia hadn't anticipated. Users complained about forced rest periods, about warnings telling them they were using the system too much, about being treated like children who needed protection from their own choices. You're limiting my memory enhancement because you think you know better than I do what's good for me. One user wrote in a complaint that went viral. I'm an adult. I can decide how much memory enhancement I want. Stop treating users like we're incompetent. The complaint gained traction. Thousands of users echoed it. People accused Thorn AI of paternalistic design, of limiting user freedom, of building a nanny state into their product. They're furious, Julian told Sophia. Stock price dropped 15% today. Tech journalists are writing pieces about how we're limiting user autonomy. This is becoming a PR disaster. Good, let them be furious. Let the stock drop. Better that than thousands of people developing memory conditions they don't understand and can't reverse. Sophia, I support your ethics. But at some point, we have to balance user protection with user autonomy. People have the right to make their own choices, even if those choices might harm them. Do they? When they don't understand what they're choosing? When they think they're just enhancing memory, but they're actually creating hyperthymesia? That's not informed consent. That's ignorance being exploited. So what do we do? Keep the restrictions and lose users? Remove them and potentially cause harm? There's no clean answer here. Then we go with the answer that prioritizes human welfare over profit. We keep the safeguards. We weather the backlash. We accept that some users will leave because we're protecting them from choices they don't fully understand. That's ethical technology, Julian. Sometimes doing the right thing makes you unpopular. The safeguards stayed. The backlash continued. But over time, research started supporting Sophia's concerns. Studies showed that excessive memory enhancement correlated with increased anxiety, with rumination, with inability to process emotions because users were too busy encoding them perfectly. You were right, Patricia admitted during a team meeting 6 months after the safeguards launched. The users who complained loudest about restrictions are now thanking us. They realized they were developing problems. The forced rest periods helped them reset. The warnings made them aware of unhealthy patterns. Sophia, I apologize for doubting you, for treating your concerns as overreaction. You saw problems I missed because you actually understand what we were creating. Thank you. That means a lot. I mean it. You've made this technology better, safer, more humane. I was wrong to resent you. You weren't limiting progress. You were steering it in ethical directions I was too focused on metrics to see. After the meeting, Julian pulled Sophia aside. You're vindicated. Your ethical concerns were proven right. How does that feel? Exhausting. Because I'll remember every fight, every time I was called paternalistic, every time someone accused me of limiting freedom. My perfect memory doesn't let me just enjoy vindication. It makes me relive all the conflict that came before it. Is that the burden? Always remembering the path, not just the destination? Yes. Normal people get to celebrate wins without carrying all the struggles that led there. I carry everything. The win and the cost. The vindication and the pain. It's all permanent, all weighted equally. That's what perfect memory means. Nothing fades. Not the good or the bad. I'm sorry. I wish I could make it easier. You do. By being someone worth remembering. By building memories I want to carry. By becoming a person my perfect memory treasures instead of resents. That's the gift you give me, Julian. Moments worth preserving permanently. Then let's build more of those. Let's create a life so good that your perfect memory becomes a blessing instead of a curse. Let's fill your mind with beautiful things until the painful ones are outnumbered by joy. That's a beautiful goal. But Julian, even beautiful memories can hurt. Because I'll remember them perfectly even if you're gone. Even if we fail. Even if something happens that takes you away. Perfect memory means perfect preservation of loss. That's the curse that never stops. Then we'll make sure the memories are worth the pain. We'll build something so meaningful that even if I'm gone, you'll be glad you remember. That's all I can offer. Moments worth carrying forever, even when forever hurts. Sophia thought about that. About whether any moments were worth permanent, perfect preservation. About whether love could justify the burden of never forgetting. Looking at Julian, she decided maybe it could. Maybe some people were worth carrying in your mind forever. Pain and joy intermingled, permanent and perfect. Maybe that was what love meant for someone with her condition. Choosing to remember someone completely, accepting the burden of permanent preservation. Building memories worth the curse of never forgetting them. Okay, she said. Let's build moments worth remembering forever, even when forever hurts. That's my choice. To carry you permanently, to let you exist in my perfect memory. To accept that loving you means never forgetting you. That's worth it. You're worth it. I'll try to be worthy of that, of existing permanently in your mind. Of being someone your perfect memory treasures instead of regrets. You already are. That's why I said yes. That's why I'm choosing this. Because you're someone worth carrying forever. The wedding was small, intimate, and designed around Sophia's memory. Every detail was carefully chosen to be worth remembering permanently. Every moment was crafted to become something she'd want to carry in her mind forever. You're creating a perfect memory on purpose, Sophia observed as Julian showed her the venue. You're building this wedding knowing I'll remember every second with perfect clarity. Yes, I want you to remember this as beautiful, as meaningful, as the moment we committed to building a life together. Sophia, your memory is going to preserve this wedding perfectly. I want it to be worthy of that preservation. That's a lot of pressure. What if something goes wrong? What if there's a mistake or an awkward moment? I'll remember that too, forever. Then we'll remember that our wedding was real. Imperfect, human. That's okay. Perfect memories don't require perfect moments. They just require honest ones worth preserving. The ceremony was held outdoors, late afternoon, golden light streaming through trees. Sophia stood across from Julian and thought about how this moment would exist in her mind forever. How she'd be able to replay his vows with perfect accuracy. How his expression would never fade. How this feeling, love mixed with terror, mixed with certainty, would remain permanently clear. I promise to be someone worth remembering, Julian said during his vows. To build moments you'll want to preserve. To understand that loving you means loving your memory, the burden and the gift. I promise to be careful with my words because you'll carry them forever. To honor that permanence instead of fearing it. Sophia, you remember everything. I promise to give you things worth remembering. Sophia's vows were simpler. I promise to let you in. To let you exist in my perfect memory even though that's terrifying. To trust that you're worth carrying permanently. Julian, I remember every moment we've shared. Every conversation. Every touch. Every time you chose ethics over profit because I taught you to. You've become someone my memory treasures. That's the greatest compliment I can give. You're worth remembering forever. They exchanged rings, kissed, and Sophia cataloged everything. The feeling, the certainty, the weight of knowing this moment would never fade. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The reception was perfect until it wasn't. Sophia's mother, who'd been drinking, cornered Julian during dinner. You know what you're getting into, right? Marrying someone who never forgets anything. Who remembers every mistake you've ever made? Who can't let anything go because her brain won't let her? Mom, stop! Sophia tried to intervene. No, let her talk, Julian said quietly. What should I know? That Sophia's memory destroyed her last relationship. Guy couldn't handle being held accountable for everything. Couldn't handle that she remembered every promise, every mistake, every time he screwed up. Left her because he said living with someone who never forgot anything was like being married to a recording device. You ready for that? For never being able to just move past mistakes because she'll remember them perfectly forever? Yes, I'm ready. Because unlike Sophia's ex, I'm not afraid of accountability. I'm not intimidated by someone who remembers what I say. That's not a burden. That's honesty. If I can't handle being remembered accurately, that's my failure, not hers. Sophia's mother studied him. You say that now? Wait until you've been married a year, until the novelty wears off and you're just living with someone who catalogs your every flaw permanently. Then we'll see if you still think perfect memory is beautiful. After she walked away, Sophia felt tears threatening. I'm sorry. She's drunk. She doesn't mean, she means it. And she's not wrong. Your last relationship failed because he couldn't handle your memory. I need to know, am I going to fail the same way? Am I going to wake up one day and resent being remembered so accurately? I don't know. That's the risk. That's why this is terrifying. My memory has destroyed every serious relationship I've had. People say they can handle it until they can't. Until they realize that being with me means being held permanently accountable. No mercy of forgetting. No letting things fade. Just perfect preservation of every mistake forever. Then we'll have to be the first relationship that doesn't fail that way. We'll have to prove your mother wrong. Together. But Sophia's mother's words haunted her throughout the honeymoon. Every time Julian made a small mistake, forgot to close the bathroom door, left dishes in the sink, interrupted her mid-sentence, Sophia cataloged it. Filed it away with everything else. Watched the accumulation with growing dread. You're counting, Julian observed one evening. I can see it. You're tracking my mistakes, cataloging them, building a case in your perfect memory. I'm not building a case. I'm just remembering. That's all I do. That's all I can do. It feels like surveillance. Like I'm being monitored constantly, evaluated, judged based on a permanent record I can't defend against because you remember everything perfectly. That's what it is. That's what living with me means. I told you it was a burden. I didn't realize how much of a burden until now. Sophia, I love you. But living with someone who never forgets is harder than I anticipated. I feel like I can't just be human. Can't make normal mistakes. Because every mistake is permanent in your mind. That's exhausting, then leave, like everyone else does. Like my ex did, like everyone eventually does when they realize my memory doesn't let people off the hook. When they realize I'm not capable of merciful forgetting, I'm not leaving. But we need to figure out how to make this work. How to live together when you remember everything and I forget constantly. When your permanent record makes me feel like I'm always failing. They spent hours talking. About her memory, about his normal human limitations, about how to build a relationship when one person remembered everything perfectly and the other forgot most things eventually. I can't change my memory, Sophia said. I can't forget your mistakes even when I want to. But I can try to contextualize them. Try to remember the good things as prominently as the bad. Try to build a balanced record instead of just cataloging failures. And I can try to be more careful, to make fewer mistakes, to be worthy of permanent preservation, to give you more good memories than bad. That's all we can do. Try. Hope it's enough. Hope my memory doesn't destroy us the way it's destroyed everything else. 6 months into marriage, they faced their first major test. Julian made a promise to attend Sophia's work event, something she'd been planning for months. Then he forgot. Completely. Stood her up because a work crisis seemed more urgent and he didn't remember his commitment. You promised, Sophia said when he came home 3 hours late. May 15th, 2 p.m. You said I'll be there. This is important to you, so it's important to me. You said that on March 23rd at 8:47 p.m. You promised. And you forgot. I'm sorry. Work exploded. There was a crisis with the memory system. Users were reporting errors. You had to prioritize work over me. Over a promise you made. Over something that mattered to me. I understand work was important. But Julian, I remember your promise. Remember the exact words. Remember believing you'd be there. And now I have to remember this too. The broken promise. The choice to prioritize work. That's permanent now, forever. Sophia, I'm human. I forget things. I make mistakes. You can't hold me to a standard of perfect memory when I don't have one. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for you to honor commitments. To write things down if you can't remember. To not make promises you'll forget. That's not unreasonable. It feels unreasonable when every mistake becomes permanent evidence of my failure. When I can't just apologize and move past it because you'll remember forever. Sophia, your memory is becoming a weapon. Something you use to prove I'm inadequate. That's not fair. I can't help remembering. That's my curse. Don't make it sound like I'm weaponizing my condition against you. Then what do I do? How do I live up to someone who remembers every promise perfectly when I can barely remember what I had for breakfast? How do we make this equal when your memory is permanent and mine is temporary? They fought for hours, both crying, both terrified they were proving Sophia's mother right. That perfect memory did destroy relationships. That accountability without mercy was too heavy a burden for normal humans to carry. Maybe my mother was right, Sophia said finally. Maybe I can't have relationships. Maybe my memory makes me impossible to love long-term. Maybe— Stop, don't finish that sentence. Sophia, I love you. Yes, your memory is hard to live with. Yes, being held permanently accountable is exhausting. But you're worth it. We're worth it. We just need to figure out how to make this sustainable. How? When every mistake you make is permanent for me? When I can't forget even when I want to? When my brain catalogs everything whether it matters or not? By building better systems? By using technology to help me remember? By making your memory less of a burden because I'm carrying some of the responsibility? Sophia, I build memory systems. Let me build one for us. For our relationship. Something that helps me remember the things that matter to you. Over the next month, Julian developed what he called the Sophia system. An AI assistant that tracked his commitments, reminded him of promises, flagged potential conflicts with things he'd said before. It wasn't perfect memory, but it was better than his normal forgetfulness. You built technology to accommodate my condition, Sophia observed. You're literally using AI to approximate my memory so you can meet me halfway. Yes, because relationships require accommodation. You accommodate my forgetfulness by trying not to resent it. I accommodate your perfect memory by trying to remember better. That's partnership. Both of us adjusting to make this work. The system helped. Not perfectly. Julian still made mistakes. But fewer mistakes. And when he did mess up, he had records showing he'd tried. That he'd set reminders. That he'd made effort even when he failed. I can live with this, Sophia said 6 months after implementing the system. I can live with someone who tries and sometimes fails. What I couldn't live with was someone who didn't try at all. Who expected me to just forget because that's easier. You're trying. That matters. A year after their wedding, they attended a Thorn AI company event. The memory enhancement system had been refined, improved, made safer based on Sophia's continued advocacy. Users were thriving. The technology was helping people without harming them. Everything Sophia had fought for was working. We did it, Julian said during his speech to the company. We built ethical technology. We prioritized user welfare over profit. We created something that helps without harming. And we did it because Sophia taught us to. Because she made us think about human experience instead of just technical capability. This success is hers as much as mine. After the event, they walked through the city, holding hands, and Sophia cataloged the moment. The feeling. The certainty that despite everything, despite her memory, despite their fights, despite all the difficulties, they'd built something worth preserving. I'm glad I remember everything, she told Julian. I'm glad I'll carry this moment forever. Glad I'll never forget how you made me feel. How we built something meaningful together. My perfect memory isn't just a burden. It's also a gift. Because I get to keep you permanently perfect forever. I'm glad you remember too. And Sophia, when I'm old and my memory fades, when I start forgetting like my mother did, you'll remember for both of us. You'll be able to tell me our story perfectly. Every moment, every feeling. That's not a burden. That's beautiful. You'll be our memory, our permanent record, our proof that we existed and mattered and loved each other well. Sophia hadn't thought about it that way. About how her memory could serve them both. Could preserve their relationship even if his memory failed. Could be a gift instead of just a curse. Okay, I'll be our memory. I'll remember perfectly so neither of us forgets. That's my promise. To carry us both. To preserve everything. To make sure our story exists permanently, perfectly, forever. That's all I could ever ask for. To be remembered by someone who loves me. To exist in a perfect memory as someone worth preserving. Sophia, you've made my life worth remembering. That's the greatest gift anyone could give. They went home together, and Sophia added this moment to her permanent record. The certainty, the love, the understanding that her perfect memory wasn't just a burden but also a blessing. A way to preserve love, to keep moments, to ensure that nothing beautiful ever truly faded. She'd remember this forever. Would carry Julian in her mind permanently. Would preserve every moment they'd built together. And for the first time in her life, that felt like a gift instead of a curse.